case of Foggia and Vieste in Puglia, Italy. Caution, the noodles are listening. Where should we have coffee on our first morning in Foggia? My American friend Jean and I are wondering. An overnight stay with breakfast in the budget category usually means a bitter espresso and a cornetto, a croissant wrapped in plastic, filled with artificially sweet jam and tasting horribly of preservatives. The best way to start the morning is to head to a bar for a café americano, an espresso lengthened with a little water and a fresh croissant. We set off in the direction of the cathedral towards Bar Moffa, renowned for its pasticceria. I wonder whether Ingeborg Sørensen is still alive. Her book, Introduction to the Italian Language, has already turned yellow and is starting to fall apart. Nevertheless, I've brought it along again, hoping this time to make it beyond Lesson 6, Il turista che non ha prenotato la camera, the tourist who has not reserved a room. We comb the narrow streets searching. Surely, we tell ourselves, a cathedral is not something you can simply overlook. But this one is smaller than most. The coffee bar, on the other hand, is impossible to miss. The aroma of freshly baked pastries drifts right out into the street. Delicate, tempting, and utterly irresistible. 2 café americani, please. If there was any doubt before, that settles it. We are unmistakably tourists. 4 savory bites and 3 sweet treats for €7. What a bargain, especially considering the truly exceptional quality of the pastries. The coffee takes effect almost immediately. Unfortunately, the word I used to ask for the restroom seems to have gone out of fashion since I learned it. Dov'è il gabinetto draws only puzzled looks. Mrs. Sørensen would surely be disappointed in her former student. Bathroom, my friend Jean comes to rescue in English, and the waitress promptly hands me a key to a door marked Servizio. A helpful guest points out where the light switch is. Sotto il specchio. Beneath the mirror, translates Jean. Remarkably enough, since she doesn't actually speak Italian at all. Whatever happened to my modest language skills? For the moment they seem to be hiding behind English words. Back when we tried to learn Spanish, Italian words kept coming out of my mouth instead, while Jean invariably responded in French. It wasn't long before we gave up on the lessons. At lunchtime we are only looking for something small. The morning's pastries are proving surprisingly sustaining. Let's go to Trilussa. The Puglia guidebook describes it so appealingly. A cheerful pizzeria with 50 different pizzas and a wide selection of delicious antipasti. Perhaps we can share a pizza. By the time we arrive, however, the place is already packed with more than 50 cheerful children, noisily and enthusiastically stuffing fragrant slices of pizza into their hungry mouths. A school trip to pizza paradise. Never mind, instead we decide on the Osteria Ambasciata di Ozzarese, directly opposite, a restaurant that has been welcoming guests for well over 100 years. One of the house specialties is pan cotto, which literally means cooked bread. It consists of potatoes, vegetables, and a piece of sausage encased in a crust of bread. We can probably share that as well. There's no point spending more money than necessary when we are not particularly hungry. Here too, Italian is the only language spoken. Vino bianco or vino rosso? White wine, please. Yet what appears is a rosé. Then again, in places like this, you drink what arrives at the table. We take a sip. Yes, perfectly drinkable. Pietro tops up our glasses and, with an inviting gesture, leaves the entire bottle on the table. There is no escaping now. Perhaps there should be, because here you eat what is put in front of you as well. The restaurant offers just one set menu, changing daily and cooked accordingly to old family traditions. €20 per person, wine included. Today, Pietro announces, rubbing his hands with almost mischievous delight, is diet day, Italian style, which means you get everything. We barely have time to utter an "oh no" before the antipasti appear on the heavy marble table. Cheese, cured ham, spicy sausage, and enormous chunks of bread. The bread has been baked in a straw-fired oven dating back to the 16th century, not far from Osara di Puglia. The 4-kilogram loaves stacked in the wooden chest by the entrance are a clear indication that bread plays a significant role in this kitchen. And indeed, it is so good that I could happily fill up on the magnificent crust alone. The softer part of the bread I dip into the extra virgin olive oil. This particular oil, we are told, is even pressed without the pits. Without the pits? Then how is the other olive oil made? Some details are perhaps better left unknown. Good olive oil and crusty bread, if I could choose just 2 things to live on, those would be my choice. But that was before I tasted the fresh cheese. Compared to this, packed mozzarella sold in our supermarkets is an affront. And as for ricotta, I have yet to come across anything remotely as fresh back home. So the cheese disappears tutto completo and with great enjoyment. The onions, Pietro tells us, were pickled by his wife herself, delicious as well. Another piece of bread. Weren't we the ones who claimed not to be hungry? The voice of Peppino di Capri trills from an antiquated loudspeaker that looks old enough to have been used by Peppone to torment Don Camillo with communist slogans. Remember those films? Wooden shelves line the walls filled with wine bottles and faded photographs. Bread baskets and a bicycle are hanging from the ceiling. It reminds me of the German saying to hang the bread basket higher, out of easy reach, meaning to get by with less. In our case, perhaps it should, yet once again we find ourselves breaking off another piece of that glorious crusty loaf, unable to resist its golden crackle and soft, fragrant crust. Now the dishes are coming thick and fast. Aubergine with tomato, green asparagus wrapped in bacon and sprinkled with parmesan, courgette blossom filled with ricotta, vitello topped with tomato and oregano, and cubes of pork with peppers. No, please don't take the plates away just yet. The sauces simply have to be mopped up with bread. Before we know it, we are reaching for another piece. And then, goodness, the bread basket is empty already. But there is no need to panic. The pancotto bread soup arrives in an entire loaf of bread filled with steaming vegetables. Fennel and peppers catch my eye, together with generous chunks of aromatic Italian salsiccia. Oh my God, if this stuffed loaf is meant to represent the state of my stomach. Everything appears on the table within 5 minutes. How can it arrive so quickly? Italian cooks can't possibly be using microwaves, can they? As Pietro disappears into the kitchen to fetch the next course, Jean quietly helps herself to the salt from the side table. "This needs it," she declares. "No, it doesn't," I reply. "All those salty crisps at home have ruined your palate." Pietro grants us a brief pause. I let out a sigh, full and content, and am just about to lean back and relax. Then Jean lifts the bread lid from the pancotto and peers inside with a critical eye. "You do realize how much is still in there," she says. "We'll have to finish it. It's the dish they are most proud of." In that case, I help myself to another glass of wine first. The rosé is truly delicious. Who would have thought the bottle was already nearing its end? Then we fish out the vegetables and press the bread down flat. It soon looks like a little less. This bread vessel is as solid as an urn, which reminds me there are in fact bread urns for sea burials. They dissolve on the seabed, allowing the ashes to become part of the ocean. It is actually quite a comforting thought. But this urn here isn't going to dissolve by itself. Let's see how we manage that. Next comes the agnello. And not just any lamb. Pietro runs his hand slowly up and down his neck, then lovingly across his stomach and entrails, making it clear which parts have found their way onto our plates. This is an animal to be appreciated from nose to tail. Oh no, my heart is sinking to the bottom of the sea as well. This dish you can eat with a serious red wine, Pietro says encouragingly, placing a bottle of his house brand on the table. How old is the lamb? Jean asks, trying to buy a little time, though it doesn't help. Too young to die, says Pietro, no more than a year old. Mangia, eat, he insists, remaining firmly by the table. Whatever it is, in the end it is all a matter of taste. We have watched Anthony Bourdain on television. On his culinary adventures through the kitchens of the world, the New York chef has eaten far more challenging things than this. So down it goes. Something is already crunching away in Jean's mouth. She smiles encouragingly and washes it down with a sip of red wine. It can be done then. I'm surprised by how good it tastes and, somewhat against my expectations, actually help myself to another piece. Never focus on what you don't want. It has a way of arriving all the sooner. Only moments ago we were underlining the things in the culinary dictionary that we were absolutely never going to eat. And now, here they are, sitting right in front of us on the table. What's more, they taste good. Where are you from, Padre Pio? No, we are staying in Foggia. We will visit the national saint later. But now we are on our way to Vieste. Pietro treats us to a brief lesson in archaeology and gives us directions to several intriguing ex-vacation sites. They all sound fascinating, but by the time we would get there it will probably be far too hot to go exploring. The homemade orecchiette, Apulia's celebrated little ear-shaped pasta shells with fresh tomatoes and basil, come with a condition. We only get them if we also commit to the next dish. Of course we agree. Bring on the pasta. After those lamb innards, what more could possibly happen? We settle back and enjoy the orecchiette in perfect calm. What are they called again? Little ears. Jean laughs. Careful what you say. The pasta might be listening. And then it arrives. The horse. Our next dish is cavallo, horse meat roulades filled with tomatoes. To my surprise, it's not just edible, it's genuinely good. Who would have ever thought that I would one day be eating horse? After all the wine, Jean begins to feel a touch sentimental about the beautiful, noble creature and sighs in her native language. Oh my God, what you can eat in 1 hour. Cherries, cream with strawberries. Dessert has arrived. Try the cream, Jean says with a slight hiccup. It brings everything together. Oh, limoncello, rescue is at hand. Pietro places a quarter-liter carafe of ice-cold lemon liqueur on the table. Surely this cannot be all included in the price. For 20 euros? We had better drink it quickly before it gets warm. Put a few cherries in it, Jean suggests. In the limoncello? No, in the cream. By now things are starting to become a little confused. One thing at a time. First the cream, then the cherries, and only afterwards the limoncello. Just as we raise our glasses and say salute, the 50 children come pouring out of the pizzeria and stream past the window. The noise is extraordinary. They must have had a wonderful time in that cheerfully decorated pizzeria with its 50 varieties of pizza. It's their fault. We only wanted to share a pizza, says Jean, with a slightly heavy tongue from the wine. Nevertheless, she still manages to guide another bite of cheesecake into her mouth. A few more pieces of fruit somehow find room as well. My cherries taste like mothballs, Jean complains. Well, that's because you wiped them on the cloth napkin first. We are the only guests at lunch today, not because there is anything wrong with the place, quite the opposite. The locals simply seem to have a much more realistic understanding of their own limits. Diet day, when everything is coming to the table. The locals already know that. After all, a stomach can stretch only so far. Oh, if you only could say that in Italian, Jean sighs, handing me a couple of antacids. You'll find the whole story in my book Kleine Reisen ins Glück, for now only available in German on Amazon.de. Copyright 2026, text and voice by Elke Voss.